Welcome back. The World Health Organization has been given the go-ahead by officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo to import and use an experimental Ebola vaccine in the country. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom says vaccinations could begin by next Monday. The vaccine developed by Merck in 2016 has proven safe and effective in human trials, but it is still experimental as it does not yet have a license.
We have agreement, registration, plus import permit, everything formally agreed already. And as you know, that vaccine is safe and efficacious and has been already tested. So I think we can, all is being prepared, all is ready now to really use it. It is very, very important, you know, if a general cannot be with its troops in the front line, it's not a general. So it helps. And the second thing is, associated with Ebola, there is stigma. And we have to go and show that that should really stop. And if there is risk, my life is not better than anyone. Millions were there already. And we have to really show that. If people have done a good job on this, recognizing them is, I don't think, a problem. Because not only they saved their lives of their people, but they saved the lives of the rest of the world also. And you know, when Ebola hits hard, what its consequences are. So where recognition is due, we have to do it.
The World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom. Let's take you now to Zimbabwe, where the public sector workers have rejected an improved salary offer of 15% from President Emerson Mnangagwa's government. The main public sector unions say they want wages for the lowest paid employees to be more than double. The government agreed last week to raise salaries by 10% for the army, the police and other civil servants from July, when Zimbabwe is expected to hold its first general election since Robert Mugabe left power. Apex Council, the union which represents all government workers, says the government's higher offer was still below the poverty datum line PDL used to assess whether a person is deemed poor. President Emerson Mnangagwa, who came to power following a de facto army coup in November, has already faced public sector anger when doctors and nurses went on strike in March and April. Well, for more on this story is Nigel Inyamutumbu, a journalist in Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for joining us, Nigel. How is government reacting to the public sector workers' rejection of the 15% pay rise offer?
Well, at the moment, the government of Zimbabwe is in negotiations with the Apex Council, the union that represents civil servants in Zimbabwe. And whereas the last time they used a bit of harsh measures by dismissing the striking nurses, this time it seems as if the decision is to continue dialoguing and continue engaging. Initially, they had put up a proposal of 10%, which they then upped to 15%, but still the Apex Council and all the union representatives are still not satisfied. And they legitimately claim that the poverty datum line, which stands at around 538 United States dollars, is what they are aiming for. At the moment, they are paid within the range of $255 or so, and as such, the proposed increase by government translates to a major $20.
What effect is this pay rise controversy likely to have on the general elections coming up in July?
Well, I think it's going to work against the ruling party and the government for at least two or so reasons. The first being that the civil service, forms the bulk of the workforce in the country, and the opposition party is largely and was founded by the labor movement, within the labor movement. So it is very easy to mobilize the workers, to rally the workers to be voting against the incumbent. And also, secondly, it may mean that we might have a very underfunded election. The electoral institution, the electoral management body, may not, it's already even raised alarm as to their budgetary needs.
Okay.
And this is a clear indication that government of Zimbabwe is currently broke.
Nigel, personally, your thoughts. Do you think that this pay rise that they want is realistic, considering the budget of Zimbabwe?
Well, certainly for professionals to be paid way below the poverty datum line is worrying. For the government, which employs 80% of those that are employed within the country, to be paying such a meager amount, it also sets a bad precedent for the private sector. It also sets a bad precedent for them respecting workers' rights and improving livelihoods. So in my honest view, the demand to at least just match the poverty datum line is indeed realistic. And there are various means that a government could be mobilizing resources to this end. And actually the first being closing the leakages and a real commitment to ending corruption, which is also accounts for loss of government revenue.
All right. A journalist from Zimbabwe, Nigel Yamutumbu, thank you for talking to us. A Liberian Vice President Joel Howard-Taylor has apologized to President George Weah for leaving the country frequently without informing him, reports the New Dawn newspaper. The local newspaper says that she appeared live on morning program to tender her apology. The newspaper goes on to say there has been speculation for some time about bad blood between the two, with some pointing to lack of trust over connection with her ex-husband, jailed former President Charles Taylor. Mr. Taylor was convicted in 2012 for terrorism, rape, murder and the use of child soldiers by rebel groups in neighboring Sierra Leone during the 1991-2002 civil war, in which some 50,000 people died. Historically, Mr. Weah was a staunch critic of Mr. Taylor and his National Patriotic Party, NPP, and observers have wondered about his alliance with Ms. Howard-Taylor. And that's Network Africa at this time. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker.